So to understand all the shilas, raised in the Maimer on the Medrash, right? What's the connection between Vayivez Haman and Vayivez Esav? That the Medrash points out the connection. Bozoi ben Bozoi, despicable one, the son of despicable one. The second question was Chaveroi, which is the fellow bird, referring to the Eibishter. How could the Eibishter be Haman's Chaver? And thirdly, the consequence is that your head will be lifted in exchange for theirs. Why is that the consequence, and not simply you will perish and they will not? So he began to give the beer based on a maimer of the Tzemach Tzedek, who points out that this question, the question of Chaveroi, is raised by the Alshich. Sorry, I'm just trying to adjust something here. Is that better? Okay, try this. Let's begin Ois Beis again. Mamshir ba'maimer, v'yivim behektim tchil l'sin yidid san neshama l'mata. So that's a Tzedek says to understand this by prefacing the question, the union of why the neshama comes the mata. Miger Rambam, metaphorically, quoting here from a Gemara in a different context entirely. Miger Rambam bira mikta from a high roof. The Gemara is not speaking about the neshama. Miger Rambam bira mikta from a high roof to a deep pit. It's not just a roof and a pit, but a high roof and a deep pit. Till this world. It's all for an aliyah, so how does this happen? So the Neshamas Yisrael, as they are above, so you remember that Ma is the Miloi of Hey, the Miloi of Shem Havaya with the letter Hey. Sorry, with the letter Aleph. With the letter Aleph. Yeah, added up Hey, spelled Hey Aleph, and Vav is Vav, Vav Aleph. So that is Eilam Atikun, and that is the Svira, generally it's Zoh. So that's Sadikim, and Shema, we point out as Begimatri Odom, that's the Odom Shalakise, Eilam Abri is the Kisei. So by coming down to the world and elevating the body and the Bahamis and that part of the world that's allotted to each person, so you say you are elevated to a higher level. Because why does this happen? How can the descent lead to an ascent? Because the all matters of this world, which the Aveda is with, coming down here. So all the Inyanim Gashmim Shorosham Be'elam HaToyer Shekodam B'Tikkun. We explained yesterday the Shedish is Toiho that precedes Tikkun. As we'll see later that Shem Sag, Samach Gimel, which is a mixture of Hey and Shem Sag, is a mixture of Hey and Yud. It's spelled, Yud is always spelled Yud Vav Dalet, and Hey is Hey Yud in Shem Sag, and Vav is Vav Aleph Vav, not Vav Yud Vav, and Hey is spelled Hey Yud. If it all be Yud, it's Shem Ab. But here there's a mixture of Yud I'm sorry, of Hey and Aleph, and it's we'll see later. It's Eilam Abina, corresponds to Bina. That's what Tikkun, what Toyo happens, is when you're trying to get the beginning of Bina before Bina gets a full grasp. It's confusing. This is the union of Toyo, which we spoke about yesterday, happens on grand, dramatic levels and subtle levels. Anytime you're learning something foreign and novel, is initially grappling with it and confusion, and that's the beginning of Eilam Abina. At any rate, we'll see this later. But it's tzaddikim again, Atzilus, Keneged Atzilus, which is Shema, which is basically Zoh. So, whereas in Yonim Shel Dvarim Gashmim, the Shadish is higher, is Eilam HaTikun, is Eilam HaToyu. Kedima b'mayla, so it precedes in virtue, it's a higher world, Eilam HaToyu. The Eiris and Barubim, Kelim Mo'atim, the Kelim are small. The Yetzer Hara, it's referring to the Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara gets its argument first. Never shall he kiss. Yetzer Tov only manifests at Bar Mitzvah. So it's a Zohar. It's the basic reason why the Alter Rebbe starts explaining first Nefesh Bahamis, and then it was Perek Beis with Nefesh Hashenis. Nefesh Hashenis, it should be the first neshama, and Hashenis is Nefesh Bahamis. So the simple answer is because Nefesh Shalikis only manifests later, and the Yetzer Hara has the upper hand because the Yetzer Hara is already preceded with his tiness, with his desires. Now comes Nefesh Shalikis, has to battle it. So he has from the get-go the upper hand, which is why you need Siyata D'Shmaya, Anshe Moishe, amongst the reasons that's required. She'akdima ein derak bizman, the fact that the Yetzer Hara, the Nefesh Bahamis, is there first, it's not just in time, Alagam B'Toikev, he's more intense, he comes from Eilam HaToyu. He's unreasonable, he's much more intense. Nefesh Shalikis is a Baal Seichel. He's much more intense. So when we channel that intensity and we have the Yonei Mata, this is Toyo that precedes Tikkun. We see where he's going. Esav is the Becher, he comes from Toyo. So Nasa Sadiyah, Gam B'Nefesh Shalikis, so the Nefesh Shalikis rises as it were, is lifted through the Avodah, through connecting to the Nefesh Bahamis and unlocking and channeling its Shodesh. So the Nefesh Shalikis is elevated beyond its source, which is Tikkun, which means the Nefesh Shalikis learns craziness of Kedusha, Mesiras Nefesh, and so on. Kidua Abiyah B'divrei Arizal, the Pirish HaKosav is well known, the teaching of the Arizal on the Pasuk, Kilei Alechem Levada Yichi Adam, person doesn't live only by bread alone, whatever God will command, a person will live. Simple pshat, meaning that the Arizal, the Pasuk pshat is not just bread, other things. But the Arizal explains that the Pasuk is talking about the bread itself. It's not the lechem itself, but the pi havaya in the lechem. A person lives from the nitzut, the divine spark that's in the bread. Now, if you do a kushbe, it's known the shaila. I'll tell you, in the Kotetayra, how could this? Why is this so? The person himself also has the divine force that's creating him. So why is that not enough? Why does he have to eat food? The goof itself, clear? Mele never shall he kiss, but the goof also is from Toyo. So why do you need food? Why does he need food? The divine spark that's dafk in the bread, in food, it's not enough. The divine spark that creates and emanates him. But the answer is, as we're talking now, we said before that the guf comes from Eilam HaToyu. It's not so. That's correct. The guf of Adam is not. The Moitzi Pi Avai, the divine force that creates a person, it's lower than the divine spark that's in the bread, which he needs to eat. Why? To eat. He begashmius. That's why the guf, much of the way it's built, that they have the head on top and the shoulders and the torso and the 613 parts. It's all connected. The 10 spheres in their detail. 6 and 1 and 3 is 10. The 613 parts of the guf are all extensions of the 10 spheres, just like the 600 taryag mitzvahs are extension of the Aseres Adibris, as the Psat Yagon explains, literally tracing all 613 mitzvahs to the Aseres Adibris. But Proteus is the first two. Anoichi mitzvahs aseh and Layilachos mitzvahs leis aseh. That's Bechlolas, but in more detail, it breaks down into the 613, which is why I'm just telling you things you know. The number of letters in Aseres Adibris is how many? 620. Keseh, Begematri Keseh, Keneged Taryag, and there's Zay Mitzvahs Derabonon. All there's 7 mitzvahs, mitzvahs Bnei Noach. But it's all hinted to in the Aseres Adibris, because that's the Rotzen Hashem, the Kesed, is expressed there in a very, very raw way. At any rate, so the Guf Gashmi of a person, an animal isn't built this way. But the Guf Gashmi of a person is a reflection, Pasha Begashmi, of a likus. Of the Asesviris, the Seichel, the brain has 3 parts. The right shoulder, the left shoulder, Chesed, Gevurah, the 10 fingers, as they manifested the 10 Sviris, and the whole build, the whole Taryag components, as they divide the 6 into 248 and 365. So therefore he needs the bread. Mitam Zeh concludes, Sarich ha'odam l'datzach, that's why he needs Doimim, Tzimeach, he needs the inanimate, he needs water and Tzimeach, growing things, and even Chai. V'yula datzach enim tzichim, but they don't need him. He needs them. Because why? They're Shadish is high. V'rak m'tish datzach nofto l'mata. But the Shadish is high, but they fell very low. Therefore, therefore, he has to elevate them. So eating is should not just be physical sustenance, but spiritual sustenance as he elevates. The Tutzik Dush is connecting to Elam Atoyu, which means the Gewalt of Elikus. As we said yesterday, why the Shviras HaKelim and Elam Atoyu? Because the Gewalt, that God's the only reality, and I am not. That's the Gewalt of Elam Atoyu. And I'm a stira. My containment, I'm compromising. My whole Metzias is compromising Elikus, and therefore the Shvira, the breaking of the shattering of the Keli. So there, in Elam Atoyu, it's Gewalt Gedusha, tremendous bittul, Shvira of all Metzias and Yeshes. But that's not the Kavanah. The Kavanah is that the Yesh should express Elikus. So since it's not the Kavanah, there's a fallout. And the fallout is the craziness of this world that screams, I am. It's a corruption of the I am of God that Olam HaToyo experiences. As we said yesterday, right, that the Yesh HaAmiti is expressed, Dafk in the Yesh HaNivra, that's because of Olam HaToyo. Shviras HaKelim. Yeah, Ois Gimel. We finished, yeah. The fish is Shorosh and Mitoyo Shekodam L'Tikkun. The Shorosh of Deimim Tzimeach and Chai. V'hinei in elevating the world, Yesh Chiluk ben Abiro the Gimel HaSugim Datzach La'abiro the Sugim Medaber. Very fascinating thing coming now. There's a very big difference the way we elevate inanimate and growing things in the animal world to our engagement and interaction with the rest of humanity. Medaber. Shbenigeh l'sugim medaber. It's also significant. He doesn't refer here to Anushias, to like people, but he described them as medaber, because first of all, it's in the context of the four the four levels of life. In Pashtus, that's why he keeps referring to it to Medaber. But it's also hinting to, I'm not going to go into it now, why is the person called a speaker, not a thinker? Why is that the defining quality of a person, Medaber? To some degree, even animals can speak. Let's explain elsewhere in Chassidus. It's not just speak, it's communicate. Communicate. And to express and to connect and empathy, have some degree of empathy that's only unique to the human being. And words and language are truly the most powerful expression of a person. So engaging people, yesh kama, you don't turn the page, you have a different layout. Yeah? Yesh kama pratim v'inyonim b'ofen habir. There's many details and ways in the way this birur happens. In elevating inanimate and plant life and animal, there's one uniform way you do that. It's kosher, you make a bracha, you eat l'shem shemayim, you elevate it. And ikid is you use the energy in Torah mitzvah, so you elevate it. Why is it different? They have no choice. Inanimate, growing things and living things. He simply has to engage them in his avodah, and they don't resist. You just engage in them with an menschlich, a decent way, not an indulgent way. Use it in the service of Hashem, and they're elevated. They don't have choice. But the medaber of this world, the Yosef Bal Bchira, he has free choice. Human being has free choice, as a yeshtam coming from. There's different ways to elevate, in different degrees and types of engagement. Yeshno, it starts with the highest level, the highest human being. Yeshno Eifen Shamedaber Ba'atzmai Boicher B'Toiv. He's a seeker and he's seeking the truth. He chooses truth. And he wants to be connected. He wants to be subdued to holiness. He seeks out holiness, and he wants to be elevated. As we learned in the Basi Lagani Maimek, the time of Shlomo Melech, and they came from all of the nations, the Shmayas Chochma Shleima, to hear Shleima's wisdom. They came representing the kings. That he sent messengers. The various kings sent messages, for they heard of his wisdom. And moreover, Malchus Shva, she herself came. The queen of Shva, queen of Sheba, and she came. From their own goodwill and their own good choice. They chose to be elevated. They saw, here's the truth. Here's where true wisdom lies, and we want to be part of this. So this is an example of the world being elevated that comes from Toyu, Bnei Yisrael, through Yidden, the Tikkun, so Tikkun is being mevared Toyu. So that's easy. They're coming on their own, and what you need to do is engage with them, as it were, in a way of Eilam HaTikkun, which is Eilam HaTzilos, which means in the beautiful, orderly way. There's no battles here, and you express godliness. Atzilus means, it also means aristocratic. So aristocratic means someone that's moved. You behave like a Jew with true aristocracy. These people are seeing this, and they're impressed by it, inspired by it, and just behave like a mensch. No battle. However, but what happens when the human being chooses the opposite? So just being aristocratic and being Eilam HaTikkun and being a fine Jew is not going to cut it, not going to do it. Then he will not be able to affect him. In Yiddish, you just can't translate this. Man kann sich nicht einkehren mit ihm und ihm übersparen. Einkehren, it means you cannot deal with him and convince him or transform him. I know just evoking the level of Olam HaTikun. Here is beautiful Yiddishkeit, here's a beautiful life. That doesn't do it. Not impressed. Not interested. The whole book of Eov, the most enigmatic sefer in the entire Tanakh. There's so many opinions of who wrote it and whether there was actually such a person or not, and when he lived. There's no sefer in Tanakh, no Inyan that is so replete with minakotze opinions. Pashut in Medrash, in Gemara. Anyway, there. So you know the story that he was tested by Satan, and he's discussing with his friends. And his friends basically try to tell him that God is just, and you're having all of this suffering because you sinned, you deserved it. And he argued that he's not perfect, but doesn't deserve this. Anyway, the end is that Hashem kind of sides with Eov, because the friends were not empathetic. They're just dismissing his suffering. Well, you sinned, so you deserved it. I mean, they're trying to help him. But upon him, again, that it's multi-layered, and it's a whole... The Chassidus quotes extensively from Sefer Eov. So what happens at the end is, Vayan Hashem es Eov, and God speaks. Min se'ora, in a storm. Vayomen Hashem says to Eov, if you have an arm like God, if you're like me, if this is whatever the context there, Hadoch shoyim tachtom, crush the wicked in their place, Tamnim be'ofar, and hide them bury them in the earth. I will agree that your power is great. Hashem challenges. This is the beginning of Hashem's dialogue with Eov. But what do we see from here? What's the test if you truly have divine power, like God? If you have an arm, a strength, like God, can you break the wicked? As the pasuk we just said, crush them in their place, hide them in the earth, in the dust. What do we see from here? That he was a tzaddik. He was a tzaddik, but he cannot crush the suga medaber when it's wicked, when it's in opposition. Who can break the wicked? It's olam atzilus, olam atikah is not enough. Being a nice guy is not enough. But you need to draw the Eibush to himself. The Elo, sorry. So this is the Rishoyim, that they come from Toyo, hide and Tikkun, and that's a higher level than even the Deim Semech and Chai. That's the level of Esav about Bchira, and he uses his Bchira in the opposite, and he's exploiting this tremendous Koyach from Eilam HaToyo, and therefore he's the firstborn. His Koyach is higher. Haman said to Mordechai, says the Medrash Rabbi on Esther, your grandfather bowed down to my grandfather, meaning Yaakov bowed down to Esav, which of course Yaakov and he bowed down to his brother, and therefore Haman said, and therefore you must also bow down to me. So how could the Rebbe has to right away say, how could Yaakov have done that? Well, from Yaakov's perspective, Esav was already elevated. Well, he thought he was elevated. That's until he encountered him. And then when he encountered him, he saw that he's not. And Esav said, let's join forces. And Yaakov said, we're not ready yet. Go ahead and we'll catch up to you. And when, says Rashi, but before he met him, he thought that Esav, he judged him favorably and thought that he was elevated. So his first encounter was he bowed to him. He saw his gewaldige shayrish and thought that that's revealed here. But that's why he bowed, because he saw the Maila, the shayrish, the Yosem Itoyo Shalamaila Mitikun. Esav comes, hide in Tikkun. So we're seeing already the connection to Haman. Let's continue. Now, to explain this in more detail. This is we explain that the medaber category of this world, humanity, number 6, please. That the shayrish is if the medaber is using his free choice to oppose godliness, and the Elam Hatzilis is no match. Tikkun is no match. The Avodah of the tzaddik is not a match per se. So this we said that so when is that? That's when the person down here, the medaber, is in a situation as he's going to explain, it's not always this way. It's when the medaber right now is in line with and is receiving and connected to the very intense keiches and revelations of Toyo. So when that is, he's directly aligned with that, then in that's when even the tzaddik can't, the Eibush himself has to bring him down. The tzaddik can't break him. They're broken only by the Eibush himself. We're going to see when would that not be the case? He says yes. When they're deflated. So you do have the same Leon. When they are deflated and the oides of Toya are being removed or elevated, then even the tzaddikim, Matiko and Atzilis, can subdue them further and break them. Explains. It's not understood, which we said before. We said before that when the wicked, when the wicked cannot be broken by Hashem himself, not by tzaddikim. But we find as we find many stories and events that the tzaddikim subdued the wicked through their prayers. Countless stories. Answer. But the matter is as follows: there's a different states that the Rasha can be in, that the medaber can be in.
Which story is he referring to?
So what?
Illustrate a story where he's referring to that it's possible that a tzaddik can break his yetzer hara, etc., without the help of Hashem.
The wicked, the tzaddik can bring down the wicked. What is it?
What's an example?
Huh?
An example.
The story with Rabbi Meir, he prayed that they were these ruffians that were disturbing him. Famous Gemara, and he prayed for them, about them, and they stopped. How many stories? I mean, another story. It's tzaddik can pray. Huh? Maybe even a chumash. Amalek, and when Moishe Rabbeinu was davening, and the Yidden were successful in defeating Amalek. Bemis, there is a battle. You need a tefillah and a battle. So that's an example. But contemporarily with the Rabbeim and the Tzaddikim, people have problems, etc., come to the Tzaddik, and the Tzaddik is mispalo, and the problem disappears. You have the story with the Schwarze Hund, the big dog, with Chaim, with the family, when you're living on Carlton. Remember the story? Dog that was terrorizing, not terrorizing, he was a good dog, but they were terribly afraid of him. This big dog, Chaim's siblings, and then my Shver wrote into the Rebbe, what happened in the end? Huh?
Don't remember.
Chama does a story. Kama supported. So Tzaddik can't bring down the Rasha. What the matter is, which literally means the difference is if the hour smiles at him, good fortune or not. What does that mean? The Gemara says, if you see the wicked and he's successful, Altis Goroboy, don't start up. But the Gemara asks a contradiction. There's a pasuk that says that one should antagonize the wicked, and another one that says he shouldn't. The Gemara reconciles. It depends. When it's his hour, don't start up. It's such a matzav taki you can't. And we see this pasuk in Chumash, Vaderech Zeksiv, that Eibusha told Avram, when will the Yidden enter Yisrael? And not you, but 4 generations. The 4th generation will return here. In Hashem's promise in the Brisbane Absodim. Why? The pasuk itself says, because the sins of the Amarim are not full. They don't deserve to be driven out. Sorry? Yidden could not enter and conquer the Yisrael until the measure isn't filled. And once the measure is filled and they're not, their good fortune, their hour of prosperity is over, then they can be conquered. Now the line behind now in the language of Kabbalah, as long as the human being we're dealing with, or the people, or the society, he's in a moment of matzav that they have the oiris hatakif from the Torah, they're still plugged in directly to their intense source. And the yachal is bar the tikkun shalamatim man of madrega, the tikkun which is lower cannot refine them. More detail about this, Be'ez Hashem, tomorrow.